For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's 2019 National Signing Day. We just came out of USC's press conference with Clay Helton. Now, this was the first time we got to talk to Clay Helton since the last signing day presser, the early signing day in December. And if you're not aware, a lot of things transpired in between that time. So we got to talk about a whole range of things. But to start off, let's start about National Signing Day. What happened today? USC signed 7 more players today. Helton said that the first signing wave was about bolstering the depth on the O-line and the D-line, but this round, in this National Signing Day period, it was about bolstering the DB depth, and that's what they did with 5 more DBs added to this class. Yeah,
and if you read the first paragraph, it was 6, and they've got a player that's both a DB, listed both DB and LB. I think one of the interesting things that Clay just threw off, and I thought, oh wow, that 4 of the 5 DBs that played in the Notre Dame game will not be back, and that they will, counting Dominic Davis after this year, they will have lost 8 DBs in 2 seasons. So they didn't have much choice to go heavy, and they brought in a kid from Tennessee and a kid from Florida, and so I think they're feeling like they did a pretty good. I mean, numbers-wise. And athlete-wise, it looks like they did a pretty good job in bolstering the secondary. I don't think there's any question. I think Greg Burns has been pretty valuable in his role, as the new coach in the secondary. So I think that was a positive, and not just spin. I think they helped themselves in the secondary.
Yeah, big credit to Greg Burns coming in late in the game and being able to close the way they did with DB depth. But one of the biggest news is that USC was able to seal the deal with Kyle Ford. I know there was some talk whether or not he might stay after the whole Cliff Kingsbury departure. USC, he signed and made his decision today at Orange Lutheran. But right now, Puka Nacua, who was a USC commit, he decided not to make a decision today. But that doesn't mean good news for USC. It looks like right now he will not be in this class.
Right, here you are. I was reading the Salt Lake City paper story today, and there's still 4 schools in the running, all in the Pac-12. Washington and Oregon, people think make the case one way or the other, but UCLA got one of his last visits last weekend, and there's USC. And I know, the mom was saying that they've got so many things to figure out based on all the information from all the schools and all that. So he's not going to make the decision right away. You get the sense from all the kind of insiders and all that USC, if he ends up coming USC's way, it will be kind of an upset. Even though he's committed to USC, it will be an upset if USC pulls him in.
Yeah, and as far as national recruiting rankings and Pac-12 recruiting rankings, Puka Nacua is actually still in USC's class. So USC is ranked 18th in the nation and 3rd in the Pac-12. And those are numbers that USC is not even used to being in that realm. And if Puka Nacua is not in that class, they might drop further. Now, this is kind of the reflection of a 5-7 season. This is the type of class that USC would probably get when you don't have a great season to back it up on.
Yeah, 18 3-stars. Now, there are a lot of places where you get a 3-star and you're really excited. It doesn't probably excite USC fans to get 18 of them, which is a solid class. It's just not what USC people have, been accustomed to. Let's face it, after going into this year, USC was number 4 of the last 4 recruiting classes, basically overall nationally, behind Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. So this is not where obviously USC is not accustomed to being 5-7, and they're not accustomed to being closer to number 20 in national recruiting, and they're absolutely not accustomed to being 3rd or 4th if they drop with losing Puka in the Pac-12. I mean, that's really unheard of. I mean, that'd be a difficult year, and and then having lost Brew McCoy on top of it, it makes for kind of an off season where you're looking forward to the next 3 weeks to get ready for spring ball, and that's get out on the field and start doing some things, and talk about winter workouts, talk about all those kinds of things. But this recruiting class is kind of behind them.
Yeah. In that sense, the presser, a big part of the presser was looking towards 4 weeks away to spring camp. Graham Harrell is the offensive coordinator. Helton said that he made sure to take his time when looking for the next offensive coordinator. He didn't want to rush. He said he interviewed multiple candidates, but when it came to Graham Harrell, it was instant chemistry, and that clicked.
Yeah, I truly didn't. Once you didn't get, once Cliff Kingsbury, who had to leave, once he gets offered the Arizona job, I just didn't think there was another candidate other than Graham Harrell. So the fact that they hung in there with him, saw all the same things that we see as much as we can see them from the outside in terms of how the air raid fits, in terms of how he coaches, from what we can see, from what he wants to do on offense, and his flexibility and the ability to use the running backs, the ability to use tight ends. He looks like he's a perfect fit for USC. I mean, it just, and I thought what comes through from Clay today is he wanted somebody he could hand the offense off to completely. Yeah. I mean, and let's face it, the last couple of years, there clearly have been too many people involved with the offense, and who's, in the design and the play calling and all of that, and that just didn't work out. And Clay basically said, I can help the team more as the administrator, as the coach who coaches the coaches, as the guy who is the enforcer at practice in terms of fundamentals and technique and avoiding penalties and turnovers and all that. That's my role, Clay says. So, but I don't have to worry about designing the offense or calling the plays. And he said that's the case with all three coordinators. It'll be interesting to see. They're going to do some things differently, and they're going to bring officials to all the full pads practices. That's something that they really got away from, having officials at practice. And he said the theme that they've introduced in winter workouts is if one fails, all fail. And everything that they do has to be a team deal where everybody has to do the drill right, or they didn't get the drill right. Those are great ideas. Now, the carry through, that's going to be the key. He's saying the right things.
Yeah, Helton emphasized that the next 3 weeks will be about install. They're already kind of late on the game because Graham Harrell arrived when he did. As you said, Helton also really emphasized that fundamental and techniques will be the focus for spring camp. He did confirm, though, that the quarterback competition will be open, but he emphasized that all positions will be open, and that's what happens when you have a new scheme being installed.
Right, that makes sense. I think people will, make too much of this. I think we felt that, JT, was the guy last year and deserved to be the guy. And you would expect that, in the air raid and with matching up skill sets that probably, prevails this year. But it's a good thing, I think, to go into the offense, this change in offense, which is a big change, with everybody out there at every position. You want to see, I know Clay talked about the new recruits, giving them full 3 deep at offensive line, for example. You'd really like to see them make use of at second and third, levels in the offensive line, so that guys who are, coming back just don't automatically have a spot, and really see some, competition there. But yeah, I think you just have to open it up. You don't want to overdo it because you do want to get the quarterbacks who are going to play, or the quarterback who's going to play, to get enough reads and enough repetition. So, the air raid is one of those things that you really need repetition, and you really need to make it muscle memory and just habits, so that you see it immediately and you react immediately to where the open area is, and you deliver the ball. And you can't do that any other way than just doing it. And so the more you get to do it in spring ball, the better you're going to be for next fall.
Yeah, we also got a quick injury update from Clay Helton. He said that Stephen Carr is a full participant in winter workouts, which is positive news for him. Daniel Imandrebebe, on the other hand, is kind of more the same story with him. He's doing individual workouts, but he's not working out with the team. And Helton seemed very impressed with Max Williams and his progress. He said that he might look positive for fall. But as far as that, those are kind of the only real injury updates we got until we get into spring.
Yeah, he did say that will play in a little bit into, he said when they go full team, the plan is always to go full speed, which we couldn't agree with more. He said because of the numbers and because you don't have a full roster, you don't have all the freshmen in here and all of that, you may not have as many numbers as you'd like in the spring. Hopefully that's not kind of a way of getting out of going, full go as much as possible. But he is already, thinking about, well, maybe we can't, go as hard as we want because of injuries. But it'll be interesting to see how they work the defensive backfield this spring.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty much it for the presser. I know you were trying to get Helton to give us some tangibles about how things might change in spring. Did you feel like you got a concrete answer there?
Well, I think we have an answer in terms of the kinds of things you want to get better. Do we have an answer as to specifically how are you going to make them get better? I think bringing in the officials is one thing. I think an attitude that if one guy fails, they all fail, and that they've got to do everything as a team is a good thing. The attitude that we want to do everything full speed when we're in full team, I think that's a good thing. I just think making it happen will be the key. And how do they do that? I think he's saying the right things. Now you have to do the right things, and we'll see how that happens. I also like the fact that he did say there will be more individual technique work. Yep. And a lot of the, you talk about physical beats, and I think he even realizes he's kind of getting tired of having to come after a game and say that. And you're talking about hands aren't in the right place, your helmet's not in the right place, your feet aren't, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So more individual technique work, I think, is a great thing. Because I think you don't have to run plays as much. You want to be able to play, and you want to practice the way you're going to play, but I don't think you have to practice plays as plays. So if you can incorporate all the individual technique work into a system, then I think you're going in the right direction. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be driven by Graham Harrell in the offense. I don't think there's any question, and I think he will require practicing at a certain tempo, a certain speed, under pressure, that will improve things. But, again, stay tuned. We'll see.
Yep, we will see. We'll see in 4 weeks. Spring camp is coming around pretty fast, which is pretty crazy. It's been a tumultuous, I can't say that word, tumultuous off-season.
Easy for you to say.
No, it's definitely not. Alrighty, for Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. That's going to wrap it up for Instant Analysis. So for more, check out uscfootball.com.